all the time when I pull up to parking lots or gas stations, I get the question, what the heck is this thing? This is actually a shallow water anchor. So the idea behind it is if you're in shallow water and say you want to do some pitching or some casting or whatever, you can actually lower this down, it scissors out, and it'll stick down into the bottom. So this would keep going down and actually stick in the bottom. So that's one way to use this thing. Now as a walleye fisherman, what I'm more often going to use it for is as a drift paddle. So what I'm going to do is put this paddle on here quick, and then we're going to go out on the water. I'm going to show you a couple different situations where I actually use this drift paddle to give me better boat control. First scenario I want to talk about is trolling, and what the drift paddle is mainly going to give you here is some speed control. Now the nice thing is compared to say throwing out a drift sock, is that you can change the speed that you're going by simply raising and lowering that paddle. If you bring it up out of the water just a little and just leave a little bit of the paddle in, it's only going to slow you down a little. If you really sink it down into the water, it's going to slow you down even more. I've had on a lot of boats, like running my big engine, where I can slow this boat down a good mile and a quarter slower than you can on a regular troll. So that's one thing, you got speed control. The other thing that drift paddle is going to give you is it's going to reduce the amount of surge that the boat has as you're trolling along. And I find this is really important, especially with spinner fishing. A lot of times, especially in dirty water, if that spinner is surging, that walleye has a hard time tracking it. If you give it a lot nicer, steadier pull, then that walleye can track it, you're going to get more bites and more fish in the boat. The last thing about this is, if you do happen to get a fish on, the beauty of this is, if you're reeling in a fish, you can simply put this thing up, get it out of the way, fight the fish in, then set it back in and start fishing again. So let's go over and look at a second scenario where this can really help with boat control. And that's drifting along a break, you know, whether that's a shoreline break or reef or whatever. First thing I'm going to do here is put my power pole down. And you'll notice that I had the paddle more in a parallel position to the boat. So what it's doing is, as I'm drifting along here, it's slowing down the back of the boat, and then I'm simply using my trolling motor up here to control the front of the boat. Now, the real beauty of this over, say, a drift sock is that when you've got to move in and out on that break, say you're trying to hold a particular depth and you've got to slide a little in, you just simply point your trolling motor backwards. With this, you slide in, that drift paddle cuts through the water. You don't have to drag it around like a bag. So it cuts through, slides back, you get back in the right depth again, and you're all set up to be drifting down again. If you got to pull out, same thing. You just pull forward, it cuts through the water real nice. So this gives you great control, not only with speed, but to quickly stay on your depth as you're drifting down those breaks, and really gives you nice boat control doing this. So this power pole was made to be a shallow water anchor. Works for that. But as a walleye fisherman, for trolling and for drifting, that's where I get the big advantage.